Are you having a hard time figuring out what to get Dad for Father's Day? You should check out Row 1 Brand's Vintage Pictorum Gallery. They have America's best sports art. With over 7,200 historic sports prints, you're assured to find something unique for Dad this Father's Day. Instead of a boring old tie, get him a historic baseball photo taken by Henry High Sandham at the historic Polo Grounds Stadium in New York City during the 1894 Temple Cup. Or, if he's an NFL buff, check out the 1963 vintage NFL poster. These are so good looking that you'll be amazed how they turn out. Shop now at sportshistorynetwork.com/row1 and save 15% off your order.
Our ride down the highway of NFL football numbers continues, and today we stop off at jersey number 83 and the best that ever wore it. We have a top 10 list coming up for you and more in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history on a day-to-day basis. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron one day at a time. So as we come out of the tunnel of the Sports History Network, let's take the field and go no huddle through the portal of positive gridiron history with pigskindispatch.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Hello, my football friends. How are we today? This is Darren Hayes of pigskindispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pigpen, our Jersey by Number series. Jersey number 83 is our specialty today. And wow, just some great NFL players that have wore this jersey number. And I am excited to present this to you tonight because we have some great stories about some great players. And we're going to come up with a top 10 list of the best jersey number 83s in NFL history. And, we want your feedback on this. So you're a part of this. So if you hear anything where you don't hear a name that you think should be on this 83 list, or you don't like our sequence of how we put them on our top 10 list that we'll give you near the end, then please email us at pigskindispatch@gmail.com, and we will try to make corrections where needed. And we always value your opinion because you, our listener, are our biggest asset, and we appreciate you listening and participating in there like so many of you have. So thank you for that. Now let's get into these jersey number 83s because this is a very interesting number. And the Pro Football Hall of Fame tells us there are 4 members of the Hall of Fame that wore jersey number 83 at some point in time in their careers in the NFL. Those are Ted Hendricks, Andre Reed, Len Ford, and Doug Atkins. Now, we have our little caveat that we always put in there. Len Ford only wore jersey number 83 for one season. That was in 1958. Doug Atkins wore it for 2 seasons, 1953 and 1954. So we'll take that with a grain of salt as we go through these names. It doesn't mean we're going to disqualify them, but it's just saying, they did not wear it for a great amount of time during their career. Let's start off with our first player we mentioned, and that's Ted Hendricks. Now, Ted Hendricks, what a player he is. 8-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, was selected by the Baltimore Colts in the 1969 NFL Draft, played with the team for 4 seasons through 1972, got to play in a couple Super Bowls there, Super Bowl III, Super Bowl V. 1974, he went to the Green Bay Packers. Then from 1975 to the 1983 season, he was with the Raiders, both in Oakland and in 2 years in LA. So, he got around a little bit, but we've talked about him before with our jersey number 56 discussion that we had. But he wore this number 83, for 15 seasons. And just to tell you just a little bit more about the great Ted Hendricks, he is, from as far as I know, the only NFL player, NFL Hall of Famer that was born in Guatemala City, Guatemala. Now, Ted Hendricks, the linebacker from the University of Miami, Florida, came into this life on November 1st, 1947. And according to the Football Foundation website bio on player, Ted Hendricks stood at 6'7" and weighed 218 pounds, and he was known as the Mad Stork. And he played for the University of Miami with that angry style, and was kind of that long, lanky physical structure, and that's why the Stork name came at him. And as a defensive end during his 3 seasons with the Hurricanes, Ted received All-America recognition 3 times by totaling 327 tackles. That averaged out to a remarkable 109 tackles per season in college. Pretty good numbers for a defensive end. Ted was also an above-average student at Miami, majoring in math with a minor in psychology. The NFF selected and placed Ted Hendricks into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1987, and he was the number 1 pick of the Baltimore Colts in '69, like we said. And like we said, he moved on to the Packers and the Raiders and won 4 Super Bowls, 4 different Super Bowl teams. According to the Pro Football Hall of Fame's bio in his career, Ted intercepted 26 passes in his career, which he returned for 332 yards and a touchdown. He also recovered 16 fumbles of his opponents and scored a record-tying 4 safeties. Hendricks scored touchdowns on an interception, a fumble return, and a blocked punt. In all, he blocked 25 field goals / extra point attempts in his pro career and 4 safeties in those 8 Pro Bowl seasons. The Mad Stork, he's going on our list as our number 1 player. 15 seasons with that, and great player on multiple different teams, and that's why he's number 1 on our list here. Now, Andre Reed is our next player we're going to discuss here. And Andre, well, he has a very interesting career himself. Andre Reed, he was the 86th overall pick in the 1985 NFL Draft by the Buffalo Bills, and he stayed with Buffalo from 85 all the way to 99, played 1 final season in the year 2000. And in that 1985 draft, it's interesting enough, Bruce Smith was the top Buffalo pick that year, and like we said, 86th pick in the 2nd round for the Buffalo Bills was Andre Reed, so quite a great draft for them that set up for their 4 Super Bowl appearances that they had. Now, he was 83 with his 15 years at Buffalo. When he went to Washington, he wore jersey number 84. And the great Andre Reed was born in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and he was a burner receiver from Kutztown University. And Andre spent 16 seasons in the NFL after Buffalo picked him in the 4th round. I'm sorry, it was a 4th round, not the 2nd round. Reed caught 951 balls for 13,198 yards and was a member of the Bills teams that made it to 4 Super Bowls, like we said. And he was a favorite target of Jim Kelly, and for his career, he caught 88 touchdowns. He played in 7 Pro Bowls and had a tremendous knack of getting massive amounts of yardage after catches, a lot of yak for him. And Andre was voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in the year 2014. And what a great player Andre Reed was, one of the best wide receivers of his generation from the late 80s through the 90s. And he is also going on our list as our number 2 player, no doubt about that, for Mr. Andre Reed, a great wide receiver. Now, let's talk about our other Hall of Famers, and the first one we're going to talk about is Len Ford. Len, we talked about him when we discussed number 50 and number 53, and also a little bit number 80 he wore for a little bit, but he was a defensive end and an end. 1948, he came in with the Los Angeles Dons, and he played with them for 2 seasons in the AAFC, and in 1950, when the AAFC was absorbed by the NFL, well, the 3 teams were Cleveland, Baltimore, and San Francisco. Paul Brown, who was the coach of the Cleveland Browns, remembered what a great player that Len was, and he ended up taking him from the Los Angeles Dons, putting him onto the Cleveland Browns, and he was a Cleveland Brown from 1950 to 1957 in the National Football League, and then one final year in the NFL, 1958, with the Green Bay Packers. Now, let's listen to what this guy did. 4 Pro Bowls, 4 times All-Pro, 3 NFL championships. He was the all-1950s decade team for the Hall of Fame. And just tremendous 67 receptions for 1,175 yards, 8 touchdowns. Doesn't sound like a whole lot by today's standards, but believe me, you have a two-way player doing that in the 50s where they ran the ball till the ball, the tread came off the ball and tread went off their shoes, and not a whole lot of passing back in that era. So that's a tremendous amount of catches for that young man when he played, and 8 touchdowns for him. So Len Ford but he only wore our jersey, like we said, for one season. So I think we're going to put him on standby, but a great player all the less. Doug Atkins, he's the other one that wore the jersey. He's a Hall of Famer, but only wore jersey number 83 for 2 seasons. Just some tremendous numbers with him. And let's talk about that. The 1953 and 1954, he was a Cleveland Brown, and then he went to the Chicago Bears from 55 to 1966, and it was a New Orleans Saint from 67 to 69. And he wore 81 for the majority of his career, but jersey number 83 came in his first 2 years, and that was as a Cleveland Brown. And he didn't have a whole lot of stats as a Cleveland Brown, but let's look at what he did for his career. 8 Pro Bowls, 1-time All-Pro, 2 NFL championships, all 1960s decade team of the Hall of Fame. And 94 and a half sacks are credited to this great defensive end, 6'8", 257 pounds when he came out of college. And another one that's a very good player, but I think we're going to reserve judgment if he makes our list because he only wore the jersey for 2 seasons. It was his first 2 seasons, and he didn't really produce a whole lot in those 2 seasons with the Browns. He was better known as a Chicago Bear. And so we'll reserve a judgment on that. Let's go to some of our non-Hall of Famers. And the first one I want to talk about is Wes Welker. Wes Welker, the great wide receiver. We always think about him in those New England Patriots jerseys, and rightfully so. But he did come in the league, surprisingly enough, in 2004 with the Miami Dolphins, and he was a Dolphin from 2004, 2005, 2006. He went to New England in 2007. Belichick loves those little receivers like that, and played with the Patriots through 2012 with Tom Brady, and then spent 2 years in Denver. Remember, 2013, 2014, Peyton Manning was there, and in 2015 he was in St. Louis with the Rams at the time. So, great long career, 6, 9, 11, 13, 14 years as that wearing that number 83. I'm sorry, he wore 83 for 11 of those 13 seasons. And Wes Welker, let's look what he did. 5 Pro Bowls, 2 times as an All-Pro. He had 9,924 yards total, 903 receptions, 11.0 yards per reception, 50 touchdowns, and just a tremendous player. Just a little smallish receiver at 5'9", 185 pounds, and wasn't like a speed demon, but boy, could he run routes and get underneath. And quarterback's best friend Brady loved just checking down to him and having him on the little crossing routes. He'd get inside the safeties and the corners and the linebackers that tried to cover him. Just a real pain in the dupa for those defenders to get on him, and really a strategic player that Bill Belichick used and Brady used quite a bit. I think he is good enough where we're going to put him on this list because 5 Pro Bowls and those Super Bowl championships, those are pretty good. So he's our 3rd player on. Now, Mark Clayton, there's a great name from the Miami Dolphins. Played with Dan Marino as his quarterback. Him and Mark Duper were just tremendous wide receivers for the Dolphins. And he played for the Dolphins from 1983 to 1992. And then spent the 93 season with the Green Bay Packers. And he had 5 Pro Bowls during his career. 8,974 yards on 582 receptions, a 15.4 yards per catch on that, 84 touchdowns, and wow, what a great player he is. And I think we'll just reserve judgment on him for a little bit, but he's got a pretty good chance of making our list here. But Vincent Jackson does also, another great wide receiver, a little bit more modern than Clayton, and he is still playing, I believe. I'm sorry, he was done playing in 2016, but came in with the San Diego Chargers 2005 through 2011, and then was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer for 5 seasons after that. 12 years in the league, 83 the entire time, 3 Pro Bowls, 540 receptions, just over 9,000 yards, 16.8 yards per reception, 57 touchdowns. Another good player with a lot of good marks on here. Reserve judgment for him too, but another one that's got a good look at making our list here. And Anthony Miller, another guy that could catch the ball. Great wide receiver, wore 83 his entire career, and that spanned over 10 seasons. San Diego Chargers were 6 of those, came in 1988 season through 93. Denver for 3 seasons after that, and then one final year, 1997, with the Dallas Cowboys. And 595 receptions, 9,148 yards, 15.4 yards per reception, 63 touchdowns, 5 Pro Bowls for Anthony Miller. Those guys are all like neck and neck with their yardage and touchdowns and the like. Vern Den Herder, he's another one that I like to talk about. You don't hear that name because he played in a little bit different era. Played in 1971 with the Miami Dolphins through the 1982 season, and he was a defensive end nose tackle. Odd number, wearing 83, but he did wear 83 for most of his career, and that was 11 seasons of his 13. And Vern Den Herder had 65 sacks during his career, but really plugged up the middle and did a nice job as a nose tackle, and had 2 Super Bowl championships. Of course, that undefeated 72 season with the Dolphins, and then the next year when they won the Super Bowl as well. So some great play from Vern Den Herder. Not sure that he will make our list, but he is on our radar along with some of those others that we talked about. Now, let's go to Sherman White, another excellent player that played in the NFL. And Sherman, well, he was another defensive end type and wore 83 his entire career. That was with the Cincinnati Bengals from 1972 to 75, and then was a Buffalo Bill 76 through 1983 season. 63 sacks, never made it to a Pro Bowl, never was an All-Pro, but a very solid player indeed. Sherman White, wore that 12 seasons with that great number 83 on his back, and now we'll go to Willie Gulp. Willie Gulp, the Speedster. We know him as a great return man, especially for the Chicago Bears. And during those great 80 seasons, especially 1985. And he came into the league in 1983 with the Bears and stayed with them through the 1987 season, and then joined the Raiders 1988 to 1993. I believe that was in Los Angeles when they were there. Now, he's really known for his return yards, but during his career returning yards were kickoff returns. He had 7,937 yards, scored a touchdown on that, and for punt returns, I guess I don't have the statistics on his punt returns, but as a receiver, wasn't too shabby either. 6,600 yards, 44 touchdowns, 333 receptions, and his yards per reception, 19.9 yards. You could tell he's got those wheels going on there. He was, sparks were coming off those feet when he was running down that football field. But, Willie Gulp, another one we're going to keep a close eye on, and he's got a pretty good idea that maybe he'll get into our list here. Ben Davidson, another great player that we want to discuss today. Defensive end, defensive tackle. Came into the league with Green Bay in 1961, then was in the Washington Redskins organization 62 and 63, and then went to the AFL, the Oakland Raiders 1964, and played there all the way through 1971 when they joined the NFL for a couple years. So 8 years as a Raider, 2 with Washington, 1 with Green Bay. He had 64.5 sacks during his career, 3 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro, an NFL championship, and an AFL championship, but wore the jersey number 83 for 8 seasons. So another one that's really holds a torch up here to maybe he can get into our list here. Pat Tilley, another one. Great players we have here. Wide receiver, St. Louis Cardinals, 1976 to 1986. 1 Pro Bowl, 7,005 yards on 468 receptions, 15.0 yards per reception, 37 touchdowns for Pat Tilley. And, another good player. Not sure if he'll make it in, but we'll put him on our list here. How about Louis Lips? For the longest time, he was the leading receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he came in the league in 1984 as their top pick that year and played for the Steelers from 84 to 91. And then in 1992 played with the New Orleans Saints. He had 6,019 yards of receiving on 359 receptions, 16.8 yards per reception, 39 touchdowns, 2 Pro Bowls, and was a 1984 AP Offensive Rookie of the Year for Louis Lips. So, we're going to definitely keep him on our radar too. Another top-notch receiver here. And speaking of those, how about John Jefferson? He was no slouch himself as a wide receiver. In fact, he came in the league in 1978 and was with the San Diego Chargers for 3 seasons, and then went to Green Bay for 4 years after that. One final year in Cleveland in 1985, 5,714 yards, 351 receptions, 16.3 yards per reception, 47 touchdowns, 4 Pro Bowls and 2 All-Pros, and wore that number 83 jersey for 7 seasons. John Jefferson's another one we'll keep a close eye on here and see what happens with him. Steve Jordan, another man we want to talk about, award number 83 in his career. And Steve wore it for 13 seasons as a member of the great teams of the Minnesota Vikings in 1982 to 1994. And he, as a tight end, he caught 498 passes, 6,307 yards, 12.7 yards per reception. For a tight end, remember, 28 touchdowns, 6 Pro Bowls. Steve Jordan, he's definitely going to be one of the ones we're going to be looking in high contention here at the end. Heath Miller, another great tight end, of Pittsburgh Steelers tight end that came in the league in 2005, retired after the 2015 season. And he had 592 receptions, 6,569 yards, 11.1 yards per reception, 45 touchdowns, 2 Pro Bowls, 2 Super Bowl championships, and what a blocker he was too. That's hard to look at those stats. But another great player that we want to make sure that we know about. 11 seasons with that number 83. And one final player here we'll talk about maybe is Ricky Sanders. Look at his statistics. Because Ricky was another great wide receiver, wore number 83 for 9 seasons, and he came into the league with the Washington Redskins 1986, stayed there through the 93 season, and then was an Atlanta Falcon 94 and 95. But he had 483 receptions, 6,477 yards, 13.4 yards per reception, 37 TDs, 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Redskins, and another guy that we got to keep an eye on here at the end. Some other great players that were in there. George Sauer and Stephon Page, Lee Evans, Clarence Williams, Jerome Barkham. Just some great players there. That very substantial players, but I don't know that they're going to have a chance with our great list we have. And so far on our list, we have Ted Hendricks, Andre Reed, Wes Welker. Well, I'm going to say that we're going to put Steve Jordan on our list as our 4th player, and Mark Clayton as our 5th, Vincent Jackson as our 6th, Heath Miller as our 7th player, Anthony Miller as our 8th, and I'm going to go with, out on a limb here, Willie Gulp is our 9th, and then I'm going to say that Ben Davidson will be our 10th of our top 10 here. Real close, Louis Lips and John Jefferson were right there on the cusp, and boy, there were some good players there, but got to give it to these guys that really played those ball well. Like we said, if you have anything, objections to what we picked here, or maybe we missed somebody, just email us at pigskindispatch@gmail.com. Also, follow us on Facebook, Pigskin Dispatch, and the Pigskin Dispatch Facebook page. And until tomorrow, everybody, have a great gridiron day. At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique unique items with a retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long-sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row 1 catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row 1 Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes. That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.